Jinho sighed as he stared at the class assignment board. His stomach dropped when he saw his name next to two others, Hana and Tarek. Everyone at Sunspire Academy knew Hana. She had the highest grades in their year and always asked the smartest questions. That wasn't the problem. The problem was Tarek. Jinho adjusted his glasses and tried to calm his racing heart. Tarek was a Veldari, one of the reptilian aliens that most humans found difficult to work with. Veldari were known for their advanced technology and their belief that they were better than humans. And Tarek was the worst of them. Bad luck, huh? A friendly voice came from behind him. Jinho turned to see Hana standing there, her dark hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wore the blue uniform of the science track students just like him. Yeah, Jinho said quietly. The xenobiology project is worth 30% of our grade. Hana nodded. I know, and we got paired with the most difficult exchange student in the academy. She didn't seem as worried as Jinho felt. We meet in Lab 7 in 30 minutes. Try not to look so scared. Tarek can smell fear. Jinho wasn't sure if she was joking about the smelling fear part. Veldari had many abilities humans didn't fully understand. Lab 7 was one of the best research rooms in the academy. It had the newest equipment and the best view of the stars through its large window. Jinho arrived 5 minutes early, but Tarek was already there. The Veldari stood tall, nearly 7 feet, with green-gray scales that shimmered under the lab lights. His eyes were yellow with narrow black slits for pupils, and they followed Jinho as he entered the room. The human arrives, Tarek said. His voice was deep and had a slight hissing quality. I hope you can keep up with the work. This project requires actual intelligence. Jinho felt his face grow hot. He wanted to say something back, but no words came. He set his tablet down and moved to the far side of the lab table. Hana arrived, exactly on time. She nodded to both of them and got straight to business. We've been assigned sample 37B, she said, bringing up the details on the main screen. It's biological material from the third moon of Proxima Centauri b. No one has studied it closely yet. Tarek made a sound that might have been a laugh. Let me guess. The Academy gives the unknown samples to the students they care least about. Typical human education method. Actually, Hana said calmly, Professor Kang only assigns the unknown samples to his best students. He must think highly of our team. That silenced Tarek for a moment. Jinho felt a small bit of pride at being considered one of the best, even if he had to work with a Veldari. 3 hours later, they were deep into their analysis. The sample was strange, a small piece of moss-like material that seemed to change colors slightly depending on what it touched. Jinho was using the electron microscope while Hana ran chemical tests. Tarek was checking the sample against the Academy's database of known species. Nothing matches, Tarek announced. This species is completely undocumented. Jinho hardly heard him. Something on the microscope screen had caught his attention. A pattern in the cells that didn't make sense. I think I found something, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Tarek rolled his eyes. Speak up, human. Your mumbling is inefficient. Jinho cleared his throat. The cells have a strange structure. Look at this. He moved aside so the others could see the screen. Hana leaned in first. That's odd. The cell walls seem to be changing. Impossible, Tarek said, pushing forward to look. Cellular structures don't change that quickly under observation. But as they watched, the cell walls did exactly that. They shifted and reformed in a pattern that none of them had seen before. It's like they're adapting to the microscope light, Jinho said with growing excitement. That's beyond any adaptive capability in our textbooks. Tarek made a dismissive sound. You humans are always jumping to conclusions. This is clearly just a reaction to the sample preparation chemicals. Jinho shook his head. No, I didn't use any chemicals. This is the raw sample. Then you made a mistake somewhere else, Tarek said loudly. 2 other Veldari students working across the lab looked over. This is why humans shouldn't be handling advanced scientific equipment. Jinho felt his confidence crumble. Maybe he had made a mistake. He stepped back from the microscope and let Tarek take over completely. Later that evening, Jin-Ho sat alone in the Academy's arboretum. It was his favorite place, quiet and filled with plants from 100 different worlds. The soft glow of the artificial sunset painted the leaves in gold and orange. He was reviewing the data from their sample on his tablet when a shadow fell across him. Jin-Ho looked up to see Tarek standing there, his tall form blocking the light. "Human, Jin-Ho," Tarek said, sounding uncomfortable with using his name. "I wish to speak with you." Jin-Ho tensed. Was Tarek going to complain about him to Professor Kang? Ask to have him removed from the team? "I examined the sample again after you left," Tarek continued. "You were correct about the cellular adaptive properties. I should not have dismissed your observation." Jin-Ho blinked in surprise. Was a Veldari actually admitting he was wrong? "The adaptation rate is unlike anything in our records," Tarek continued. "Your human eyes noticed something I missed. That is unexpected. It wasn't exactly an apology, but coming from a Veldari, it was close." "Thank you," Jin-Ho said, not sure what else to add. Tarek seemed about to say something else when a loud alarm began blaring throughout the academy. Red emergency lights flashed along the arboretum paths. Security. Alert. Unknown vessel approaching. All students return to dormitories. This is not a drill. The message repeated over the speakers. Jin-Ho jumped to his feet, nearly dropping his tablet. "What's happening?" Tarek's yellow eyes narrowed and his hand moved to a small device on his belt that Jin-Ho hadn't noticed before. "I don't know, but..." A second alert cut him off. "Breach in Sector 7. Security teams respond." Jin-Ho and Tarek looked at each other. Sector 7 included the Biological Research Wing, where their unique sample was stored. "The sample," Jin-Ho said. For once, Tarek didn't argue. "We need to get there now." As they ran from the arboretum, Jin-Ho's communication device buzzed. It was a message from Hana. "Something's wrong. Meeting you at the lab. Hurry!" Jin-Ho had never run so fast in his life. Beside him, Tarek moved with surprising speed, his long legs covering twice the distance of Jin-Ho's with each stride. Whatever was happening, Jin-Ho had a feeling their unusual sample was at the center of it. And somehow, he had just ended up on the same side as a Veldari who, hours ago, couldn't stand the sight of him. The day had just gotten a lot more complicated. Jin-Ho and Tarek raced through the hallways of Sunspire Academy. Red emergency lights flashed around them and the alarm continued to blare. Other students rushed in the opposite direction, heading to their dormitories as instructed. "Move aside," Tarek shouted, his voice carrying an authority that made humans step out of their way. They reached the science wing and found Hana waiting by the sealed door. Her usual calm expression was replaced with worry. "The security system locked down the lab," she said. "I can't get in with my student access." Tarek pushed forward and placed his hand on the scanner. To Jin-Ho's surprise, the door beeped and slid open. "Exchange students shouldn't have that level of access," Hana said, giving Tarek a suspicious look. "We can discuss that later," Tarek replied. "Right now we need to check on our sample." The three of them entered the dimly lit corridor. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. They moved quietly, listening for any sounds ahead. Jin-Ho heard voices coming from Lab 7, their lab. He signaled to the others to stop and pointed at the air vent in the wall. "I know another way in," he whispered. "I use the vents sometimes to find quiet places to study." Hana raised her eyebrows but didn't comment. Tarek looked like he wanted to say something about strange human habits but held back. Jin-Ho removed the vent cover and peered into the dark passage. "Follow me, but be very quiet." The air vent was tight for Tarek's large frame, but he managed to squeeze through behind the humans. Jin-Ho led them through the maze of metal passages, counting the turns in his head. "Lab 7 should be right below us," he whispered, pointing to a vent in the floor. They looked down through the slats and saw 4 figures in the lab. They wore black suits and masks that covered their faces. One was human, based on the size and shape. Another looked like a Veldari. The other two were species Jinho didn't recognize. Where is it? The human intruder demanded, searching through the storage units. The database said sample 37B was stored here, the Veldari intruder replied. The collective wants it intact. Hurry before security arrives. Jinho, Hana, and Tarek exchanged concerned looks. The collective? Who were they? The main security team is busy with our diversion on the other side of the academy, said one of the other intruders. But we still need to move quickly. Jinho watched as the thieves continued searching. Then he noticed something important. Their sample wasn't in its regular storage unit. Professor Kang must have moved it after they left. They don't have it. Yet, he whispered to the others. But they'll find it soon, Hana said. We need to stop them. Tarek pulled a small device from his belt. I can handle this. No. Hana grabbed his arm. We can't fight them directly, we're just students. Jinho thought quickly. The emergency chemical shower, he whispered. If we can trigger it from here, it might distract them long enough for us to grab the sample and escape. Hana nodded. Good idea. But how do we trigger it from here? Jinho pulled a small tool from his pocket, a laser pointer he had modified for his personal projects. This might work if I can hit the sensor. He aimed the laser through the vent slats, targeting the small red sensor above the chemical shower. Station. He turned the pointer to its highest setting and fired. A second later, alarms blared in the lab and cold chemical wash began pouring from the ceiling, drenching the intruders. What the? One of them shouted. Go now. Tarek pushed open the vent and dropped down into the lab, landing with surprising grace for someone his size. Hana and Jinho followed, landing less gracefully but managing to stay on their feet. The intruders, momentarily blinded by the chemical wash, turned toward the sound. Stop them, the leader shouted. Tarek moved faster than Jinho had ever seen anyone move. He knocked one intruder off their feet with a sweep of his tail and blocked, a punch from another with his forearm. Grab the sample, he shouted to Jinho and Hana. It's in the secure cabinet behind the professor's desk. Jinho wondered how Tarek knew this but didn't have time to ask. He and Hana ran to the cabinet while Tarek held off the intruders. Hana quickly entered a code and the cabinet opened. Inside was their sample, now sealed in a special container. Got it. Hana grabbed the container. One of the intruders broke away from fighting Tarek and fired some kind of energy weapon at them. The blast hit the wall near Jinho's head, leaving a smoking hole in the metal. This way. Jinho pointed to the maintenance door at the back of the lab. He had discovered it during one of his solitary exploration sessions. They ran for the door with Tarek backing up toward them, still facing the intruders. The collective will find you, the Veldari intruder called out. This is just phase 1. As they reached the door, another energy blast came toward them. Jinho watched in shock as Tarek pushed him aside and took the hit on his shoulder. The Veldari hissed in pain but remained standing. Jinho punched in the maintenance code and the door slid open. The three of them tumbled through and Jinho quickly sealed it behind them. That won't hold them for long, Hana said, clutching the sample container to her chest. Then we keep moving, Tarek said, holding his injured shoulder. A strange blue liquid, Veldari blood, seeped between his fingers. You're hurt, Jinho said. It's nothing, Tarek replied, but Jinho could see the pain in his yellow eyes. There's an old storage area 3 levels down that nobody uses anymore, Jinho said. We can hide there until it's safe. They made their way through the dark maintenance tunnels. Jinho led them, using his knowledge of the Academy's forgotten passages. Hana supported Tarek, who was growing weaker from his injury. Why did you do that? Jinho asked Tarek as they descended a rusty ladder. Take the hit for me? Tarek was quiet for a moment. The mission. The sample is too important to lose. The mission? Hana asked sharply. What mission? You're an exchange. Student, Tarek let out a pained laugh. We should keep moving, they will be tracking us. After 20 minutes of careful navigation through the maintenance system, they reached the abandoned storage area. Old Academy equipment filled the dusty room. Jinho moved some boxes to create a small hidden space for them. We should be safe, here for now, he said. Let me look at your injury. Tarek reluctantly sat down and removed his hand from his shoulder. The wound was deep, and the strange blue blood continued to flow. As Jin-Ho examined the injury, he noticed something unusual. Embedded in Tarek's scales, a small metal device that didn't look like it belonged there. "What is this?" Jin-Ho asked, pointing to the strange implant. Tarek's eyes widened, and he quickly covered it with his hand. "You're not really an exchange student, are you?" Hana asked, her voice cold. Tarek looked at both of them for a long moment. Then he sighed. "No," he admitted. "I am not." Jin-Ho and Hana stared at Tarek in the dim light of the abandoned storage room. The Veldari sat with his back against the wall, his injured shoulder still leaking blue blood. "If you're not an exchange student, then who are you?" Hana demanded, keeping a tight grip on their sample container. Tarek's yellow eyes narrowed. "I am Tarek of House Ventor, Special Operations Division for Veldari Security Force." Jin-Ho blinked in surprise. "You're a spy?" "Intelligence operative," Tarek corrected. "I was sent to investigate rumors of forbidden research at Sunspire Academy." Hana shook her head in disbelief. "That's crazy. The Academy follows all interspecies research treaties." "Officially, yes," Tarek said. "But our sources indicated something dangerous was happening here. Something involving advanced biological manipulation." Jin-Ho looked at the sample container in Hana's hands. "Like our sample?" "Possibly," Tarek admitted. "I didn't know what I was looking for until I saw what you discovered under the microscope, Jin-Ho. Those adaptive cellular patterns, they matched descriptions of technology that was banned 20 years ago." Jin-Ho remembered something from his history class. "The Proxima incident?" Tarek nodded slowly. "You know of it?" "Only what's in our textbooks," Jin-Ho said. "A research station had an accident, many people died, humans and Veldari. That was the official story," Tarek said. "The truth is more complicated. A sudden bang from somewhere in the maintenance tunnels made them all freeze." "They're still looking for us," Hana whispered. "We need to understand what we have," Jin-Ho said, looking at the sample. "And we can't contact anyone until we know who to trust." He began looking around the storage room. There were old Academy equipment boxes stacked everywhere. Jin-Ho started opening them, searching for anything useful. "What are you doing?" Tarek asked. "I collect old tech," Jin-Ho explained. "Fix things people throw away. Maybe there's something here we can use." After a few minutes of searching, Jin-Ho had gathered several pieces of equipment. An old microscope, a small computer, some tools, a power generator. "Can you really make something from this junk?" Hana asked, looking doubtful. Jin-Ho nodded as he connected wires and adjusted parts. "The Academy always buys the newest equipment, but the old stuff still works if you know how to fix it." Within 30 minutes, Jin-Ho had created a basic analysis station. He powered it up and the screen flickered to life. "Impressive," Tarek admitted, watching Jin-Ho work. "For a human." Jin-Ho almost smiled at what was probably the closest thing to a compliment he would get from a Veldari. Hana carefully placed their sample in the makeshift analysis chamber. "The Academy is on lockdown. Communications are jammed. We're on our own." "Good," Tarek said. "That means whoever is working with the collective can't call for help either." Jin-Ho started the analysis program. The old equipment hummed and clicked as it worked. The screen showed the sample at a cellular level, similar to what they had seen earlier in the lab. "Look," Jin-Ho pointed to the screen. "Those aren't just adaptive cells, they're machines, nanobots." Hana leaned closer. "That's impossible. Nanobots can't self-replicate like living cells." "These do," Tarek said grimly. "And they can rewrite biological material at the cellular level. In the right hands, this technology could cure any disease, heal any injury. In the wrong hands, it could be a weapon," Jin-Ho finished. "Change people's DNA without them knowing." The three of them stared at the screen in silence, understanding the gravity of what they had discovered. "We need more information," Hana said. "I have teaching assistant access codes. I might be able to get into the restricted Academy files from here." She took over the computer and began typing rapidly. Jin-ho was impressed. He had never seen this side of Hana before. After several minutes, she let out a small gasp. I'm in. And there's a whole section on something called Project Rebirth from 20 years ago. It mentions the same kind of technology. What happened to it? Jin-ho asked. Hana read through the files quickly. According to this, similar technology was discovered 20 years ago. But during testing, it caused a catastrophic incident. The nanobots began rewriting DNA too quickly, causing cell death. 342 people died. Scientists, security personnel, both human and Veldari. Tarek's face darkened. The official record said the project was shut down by mutual agreement between our species. It was, Hana confirmed, still reading. All samples were supposed to be destroyed, but... She paused, reading further. There's a note here from 5 years ago. Someone suspected that not all samples were destroyed. That's when the Academy started receiving anonymous biological samples for study. Jin-ho felt a chill. Like our sample, 37B. But who would send dangerous technology to students? Hana asked. Someone who wanted it to be found, Tarek suggested. Or someone who wanted to see what would happen if young scientists examined it without knowing what it was. Jin-ho had another thought. Or someone who needed to hide it where no one would look for it, in plain sight among thousands of student research projects. A new file appeared on the screen as Hana continued searching. It showed security footage from earlier that day. They watched as someone let the intruders into the lab section using an access code. Stop, Tarek said suddenly. Go back. Hana rewound the footage. The person letting the intruders in turned toward the camera for a moment. Professor Kang, Jin-ho whispered in shock. Their xenobiology professor was working with the intruders. They watched as he led them to Lab 7, pointing out where things were kept. He betrayed the Academy, Hana said, her voice filled with disappointment. But then the footage showed something else. As soon as the intruders found the sample cabinet empty, one of them struck Professor Kang hard on the head. The professor collapsed to the ground. 2 intruders picked him up and carried him away. They double-crossed him, Jin-ho said. Took him hostage. Or he refused to do something they wanted, Tarek suggested. Hana continued searching through files. There's more. Several Veldari scientists who worked on the original project have disappeared in the past month, and there are references to this collective group in security reports. Jin-ho turned to Tarek. Did you know about the missing scientists? Tarek nodded slowly. That's why I was sent here. Our government received threats. Someone is trying to restart the banned research. But why? Hana asked. Who would want to risk another disaster? Tarek's expression became grim. Those who believe some species are more worthy of survival than others. The implications of that statement hung in the air. Jin-ho looked at their sample with new understanding. It wasn't just a scientific curiosity. It was potentially the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. One that could target specific species for destruction while leaving others untouched. We need to destroy it, Jin-ho said firmly. Before anyone else gets hurt. Tarek shook his head. We need it as evidence to expose the conspiracy. Both of you are wrong, Hana interjected. We should use it to track its signature. These nanobots have a unique energy pattern. If we can isolate it, we might be able to locate the collectives. First, their debate was interrupted by another sound from the tunnels. Closer this time. Someone was coming. Jin-ho, Hana, and Tarek froze as the footsteps grew louder. Tarek moved into a defensive position despite his injury. Jin-ho grabbed a metal pipe from the floor, and Hana tucked the sample container behind a box. The door to their hiding place slowly opened. Jin-ho held his breath, gripping the pipe tightly. 2 figures entered, a human woman and a male Veldari. Both wore black uniforms without any academy or government symbols. The woman raised her hands to show she wasn't holding a weapon. We're not here to hurt you. That's what people usually say right before they hurt you, Hana replied, not moving, from her position. The Veldari newcomer looked at Tarek and spoke in their native language. Tarek responded, sounding surprised. What's happening? Jin-ho asked, still holding the pipe. Tarek lowered his defensive stance slightly. This is Marek, my superior officer. And the human is Agent Yuna, the woman said. Joint Human Veldari Task Force. Jin-Ho blinked in confusion. There's a joint task force? Since when do our species work together like that? Since this threat became too big for either of us to handle alone, Yuna explained. She looked around the storage room, noticing Jin-Ho's makeshift equipment. Impressive setup. How did you find us? Hana asked, still suspicious. Marek held up a small device. We tracked Tarek's implant, all our operatives have them. But the Academy communications are jammed, Jin-Ho said. We're using an old emergency frequency, Yuna explained. The kind they don't make anymore. The collective doesn't know about it. Jin-Ho still didn't lower the pipe. Prove you're really on our side. Yuna looked at him with respect. Smart kid. Cautious. She pulled out a small holographic projector and activated it. An image appeared, official documents with both human and Veldari government seals. The task force was formed 3 years ago, she explained. After the first signs that someone was trying to restart the banned nanobot research, Marek stepped forward, looking at Tarek's injury. You need medical attention. I'm fine, Tarek insisted. Always stubborn, Marek muttered, taking out a small medical kit from his belt. Jin-Ho finally lowered the pipe but stayed alert. Why didn't you tell the Academy about the threat? Because we don't know who to trust, Yuna said. The collective has infiltrated both our governments. They could have people in the Academy too. Like Professor Kang? Hana asked. Yuna shook her head. We've been watching him. He was forced to help them. They threatened his family. Jin-Ho felt relief at this news. He had liked Professor Kang. We need to get you and the sample to safety, Marek said, applying a glowing gel to Tarek's wound. The bleeding stopped almost instantly. We were just deciding what to do with it, Jin-Ho said. I think we should destroy it. No, Yuna said firmly. We need it to find the collective's base. Hana nodded. That's what I said. We can track its energy signature. Marek finished treating Tarek's wound and stood up. The girl is right. These nanobots have a unique quantum signature. With the right equipment, we can trace it back to its source. Jin-Ho wasn't convinced. But it's dangerous. What if it gets into the wrong hands? Yuna looked at him with understanding. That's a risk we have to take. The collective already has more samples. If we don't stop them, they could release this technology anywhere, anytime. Why are you telling us all this? Hana asked. We're just students. Not anymore, Marek said. You're involved now, and we need your help. Jin-Ho was confused. What can we do that trained agents can't? Yuna smiled slightly. You already did it. You identified the nanobot's adaptive properties faster than our scientists. You built analysis equipment from scraps, and you accessed restricted files without setting off alarms. We need fresh perspectives, Marek added. People who see things differently. Jin-Ho looked at Hana and Tarek. They had been strangers yesterday, forced to work together on a project. Now they were caught in something much bigger. What's your plan? He asked. Yuna pointed to a display on her wrist device. We detected a stealth shuttle docking in Maintenance Bay 12. That's our way out of here. We take the sample to our hidden base and analyze it properly. Then we do what with it? Tarek asked. We create a tracker, Marek explained. Something that can follow the quantum signature. Then we allow a controlled version of the sample to be stolen. Let them take it on purpose? Jin-Ho asked, surprised. Yuna nodded. They'll take it straight back to their main base, and we'll follow. It was a bold plan, maybe even a good one, but Jin-Ho still had doubts. How do I know I can trust you? He asked. Either of you? Yuna's expression changed. She took a deep breath and rolled up her sleeve to reveal a small tattoo, a DNA helix intertwined with a star. My sister was one of the scientists lost in the original incident, she said quietly. Except she didn't die in an accident like the official story says. She discovered something about the project and was going to report it. Her death was covered up. The room went silent. Jin-Ho could see the pain in Yuna's eyes. It looked real. I've spent 10 years trying to find out what really happened, she continued. This is personal for me. Jinho looked at Tarek, who had been quiet. And you? Why are you really here? Tarek hesitated before answering. My brother was stationed at the research facility. He was security personnel. He also died that day. Jinho hadn't expected that. Maybe he and Tarek had more in common than he thought. So this task force, Hana began, started as an unofficial investigation, Merrick explained, then grew into something more when we realized the threat was returning. Jinho thought about everything he had learned. The danger was real. The sample they had could help stop it. But working with others, especially Veldari, wouldn't be easy. If we do this, he said slowly, we need to trust each other completely. No more secrets. Yuna nodded. Agreed. This won't be simple, Marek warned. The academy is still in lockdown. There are collective agents searching for you, and we can't be certain who else might be working with them. We need a distraction, Hana suggested. Something to draw attention away from Maintenance Bay 12. I might have an idea, Jinho said, looking at his makeshift equipment. But I'll need help. Tarek stood up, testing his healed shoulder. Tell us what to do. For the first time, Jinho felt like they were truly a team. Humans and Veldari working together toward a common goal. It was strange, but also right somehow. First, we need to create a false sample, Jinho explained. Something that looks like ours but isn't dangerous. Then we set off alarms in a different part of the academy. I can handle the alarms, Hana offered. And I know how to create a convincing fake, Tarek added. Yuna looked impressed. You three work well together. Jinho almost smiled. We're learning. Marek checked his wrist device. We have 45 minutes before the next security sweep reaches this section. Let's move quickly. As they gathered their equipment and prepared to leave, Jinho looked at Tarek. The Veldari caught his eye. What? Tarek asked. Nothing, Jinho said. Just never thought I'd be working with a Veldari intelligence agent. And I never thought I would rely on a human student, Tarek replied. Life is full of surprises. For the first time since the crisis, Jinho actually smiled. Maybe these unlikely allies could save the day after all. The plan came together quickly. Jinho worked with Tarek to create a fake sample that looked like their real one. They used harmless lab material and added a special tracking device that Jinho made from parts of his makeshift equipment. Will this really fool them? Jinho asked, looking at their creation. Long enough for us to track them, Tarek confirmed. The container is more important than what's inside. They won't open it until they reach their base. Hana returned from setting up their distraction. The timer is set. In 10 minutes, the environmental systems in the East Wing will start malfunctioning. Security will think there's been a breach there. Yuna nodded approvingly. Good work. Now for the next part of the plan. Marek handed Jinho a small communication device. This works on our secure frequency. We'll be able to stay in contact. The group moved carefully through the maintenance tunnels toward Bay 12. Jinho carried the real sample in a hidden pocket inside his uniform. Tarek held the fake one in an official academy container. What if we run into more collective agents? Hana whispered as they moved. Stay behind us, Yuna instructed. Marek and I are trained for combat. And me, Tarek added. Jinho noticed that Tarek seemed different now, more confident, more focused. This was the real Tarek, not the arrogant exchange student he had pretended to be. They reached a junction in the tunnels when Jinho's pocket suddenly felt warm. He pulled out the real sample container. Something's happening, he said, showing the others. The sample was glowing faintly, pulsing with a blue light. It's responding to something, Marek said, checking a device on his wrist. There's another source of similar technology nearby. They have more samples on the academy grounds, Yuna realized. A loud boom echoed through the tunnels. Hana's distraction had worked. Alarms began blaring in a different part of the academy. That's our cue, Marek said. Move now. They hurried through the last section of tunnels to Maintenance Bay 12. A sleek black shuttle waited there, smooth and angular, designed to avoid detection. "That's our ride," Yuna said. As they approached the shuttle, the door slid open. But before they could enter, Jin-Ho spotted movement at the far end of the bay. 3 figures in black entered, weapons raised. "Collective agents," Merrick warned. Yuna pushed the students behind a stack of cargo containers. "Stay down!" Energy blasts flew across the bay, hitting the wall behind them. Marek and Yuna returned fire with their own weapons. Jin-Ho looked at the shuttle, then at the collective agents. They were trapped. "We need a new plan," he said to Hana. "And Tarek." Tarek pointed to a control panel on the wall. "Those are the bay door controls. If we could open the outer doors, the emergency protocols would activate." Hana finished his thought. "A force field would contain the atmosphere, but it would trigger a full security alert." "And bring Academy security here," Jin-Ho added. "But how do we reach the controls? They're on the other side of the bay." Tarek looked at the fake sample in his hands. "We give them what they want, or what they think they want." Before Jin-Ho could object, Tarek stood up and called out to the collective agents. "We have what you're looking for. Stop firing and we'll make a deal." The firing paused. One of the agents called back, "Throw over the sample and we'll let you live." Tarek looked at Jin-Ho and winked. It was such a human gesture that Jin-Ho was momentarily surprised. "I'm coming out with the sample," Tarek announced. "Don't shoot." Yuna grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "Trust me," Tarek said quietly. "Be ready to run for the shuttle." Tarek stepped out from behind the containers, holding the fake sample above his head. The collective agents kept their weapons aimed at him. "That's far enough," one of them said. "Put it down and step back." Instead of obeying, Tarek suddenly threw the sample container, not toward the agents, but at the control panel on the wall. His aim was perfect. The container hit the emergency release button. Loud warning sirens blared. A computerized voice announced, "Warning! Bay decompression in 15 seconds. All personnel evacuate immediately." Chaos erupted. The collective agents frantically tried to grab the fake sample container that had fallen to the floor. Merrick and Yuna used the distraction to fire at them, forcing them to take cover. "Now!" Yuna shouted. "To the shuttle!" They ran for the shuttle as the bay doors began to open. The vast emptiness of space appeared beyond the growing opening. But as Hana had predicted, a shimmering force field contained the atmosphere. Academy security alerts sounded throughout the station. The collective agents realized they were about to be caught and made a desperate dash for the sample. Jin-Ho reached the shuttle first and helped Hana inside. Tarek, Marek, and Yuna provided covering fire as they backed toward the shuttle. One of the collective agents managed to grab the fake sample container just as the first Academy security officers appeared at the bay entrance. "They're getting away with the fake," Jin-Ho said. "Perfect," Yuna replied with a smile. That was the plan. The agent with the fake sample threw something on the ground, a smoke device that filled the bay with thick gray clouds. By the time it cleared, the collective agents had disappeared. "How did they escape?" Jin-Ho asked. "They must have their own shuttle," Merrick explained as he closed their shuttle door. "But now they have our tracker." Yuna turned to the Academy security officers who were approaching with weapons drawn. She held up an official identification card. "Special Agent Yuna, Joint Task Force. These students are under my protection. They helped prevent the theft of dangerous materials." The security team looked confused but lowered their weapons. Merrick sat at the shuttle controls. "We need to follow the tracker signal before it gets too far." "What about Professor Kang?" Hana asked. "He's still their hostage." "We'll find him," Yuna promised. "But first we need to locate their base." Jin-Ho realized something. "We can't all go. Someone needs to stay and explain what happened. Protect the real sample." Yuna nodded. "You're right. We can't risk both samples being in the same place." After a brief discussion, they decided that Jin-Ho and Hana would stay at the academy with the real sample, while Tarek would go with Yuna and Marek to track the fake one. As they prepared to part ways, Tarek approached Jin-Ho. "You did well," the Veldari said. "For a human." Jin-Ho almost smiled. You two, for a Veldari. They looked at each other for a moment, then Tarek did something unexpected. He extended his hand in the human gesture of a handshake. Until we meet again, Jin-Ho of Sunspire Academy. Jin-Ho shook the Veldari's hand. Be careful out there, Tarek of House Venter. As Tarek boarded the shuttle with the other agents, Hana came to stand beside Jin-Ho. You know, she said, I think this might be the beginning of an unusual friendship. Jin-Ho watched as the shuttle prepared for departure. The most unlikely allies often make the strongest teams. The Academy's head of security approached them, looking stern. You two have a lot of explaining to do. Jin-Ho took a deep breath and patted the pocket containing the real sample. Their adventure wasn't over. It was just beginning. But he was no longer afraid. He had faced danger alongside a Veldari and survived. He had helped uncover a conspiracy that threatened both their species. And most importantly, he had learned that differences could become strengths when people, humans and Veldari alike, worked together. Yes, sir, Jin-Ho said to the security chief. And you're not going to believe what we have to tell you.